A Mook and a Mike, hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
My brother,
let me give you a morning clink there. How you doing, pal?
Really good, really good.
How you doing, Derek? You good?
I'm doing great, brother. How you doing?
Derek Harris, the third man in the booth.
Yes.
Yep, Derek Harris, there he is. Frank Pace and myself. So how you doing, brother? Everything good down there?
Doing good.
God's country?
I wanted to ask you right off, what about the gambler, the streaker at the gambler at the Super Bowl?
What a smart.
Why'd you tell us what he went through?
Unbelievable. I guess probably 95 of listeners or viewers rather watched the Super Bowl, and they saw the streaker. Maybe they didn't see the streaker. I think the cameras might have cut away from him. But turns out the next day, this streaker that gets tackled on the field made a bet with his bookmaker. He made a $35,000 bet at 7-1 that there would be a streaker at the game. So this guy gamed the system, which I love. I mean, I love that. I mean, just great, right? I mean, the only thing you can really control, you can't control the refs, you can't control the game, but he saw this bet at 7-1. He was there, Frank, with his friend at the game, and he had his friend run out in the field first, so they tackled him immediately to cause the diversion, and then he took off. Yeah, now he's going to get paid. I mean, if he's on a legit site like Ballot.
How much?
7-1 and 35,000. So we're looking at 245,000.
Seven, yeah, something like that.
7 times 35, right? So it's 5 against 245,000. So he's looking at $245,000, and he's going to get paid because there's no stipulation that says it can't be him that they jump on the field.
He got in jail. So what was his bail?
$1,000.
$1,000.
Now the only thing is, nobody knew about this thing, and of course, you know, it's never smart to put things up on social media. So I would think the NFL is going to come down on him hard, or demand the authorities come down on him hard, because otherwise next year the guy's running all over. I'll be there myself, me and you.
Next year, the wise guys won't take that bet. That's for sure.
Yeah, they'll take it off the board for sure. But if I can get 4-1 next year, Frank, me and you will go. I'll push you out of the field first, let him tackle you, and off I go.
Fine, I'll make that deal.
Sure.
Because the Super Bowl is in LA next year. We won't even have to travel to be there.
How far is the new stadium from you in Pasadena? You're right near the Rose Bowl, right?
I'm right near the Rose Bowl, and the new stadium is right near it's right next to the Forum. If you know where the LA Forum is?
Yeah, sure.
Right next to the Forum, where Hollywood Park race park was. Racetrack. The racetrack.
Well, they're going to build a huge complex down there along with the stadium. I mean, that's obviously...
Billy, what do you mean they are? They've been playing in there for a year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't get out much, Frank. You know, there's this thing called COVID. I'm not really like that possessed to see a Rams game, you know?
Speaking of COVID, you had your first shot this week, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm supposed to get another one at 20. I went to Albertsons, man. It was like in and out. No problem. Half an hour. How long did it take you to get yours?
Probably about an hour. I checked me in. By the time I got checked in, by the time I got my shot, the waiting period. But I was in and out in less than an hour.
Any reaction?
No. Zero.
No, I had no reaction, and I got to tell you, it was the mildest shot I ever got in my life. I didn't feel it going in. I didn't even feel the usual pinch. You know, in the Army, I went to Vietnam.
I'm going to stay away from that line.
Yes, me too.
I didn't feel a thing going in.
I didn't feel. That's what the women say to me, Frank. That's what the women say to me. They didn't feel a thing going in, and they don't feel a thing coming out either. That's the most embarrassing sentence in the world when a woman looks up to you and says, "Is it in?"
Billy Cassidy used to do a thing in his act where we was talking about a colonoscopy. He said it doesn't feel so good coming in, but it really feels good coming out.
Yeah, who was the guy who wrote a great column about that in the Miami Herald? Fine humorist and
Dave Barry?
Yeah, Dave Barry. He does a great Google that about colonoscopies and Dave Barry. What a great column. He's got like you got to put a seatbelt on the bowl and you're rubbling. He's got the whole deal with stuff you got to drink that tastes like cement. It's a great column.
Yeah, Dave Barry's from Armonk, New York, which is which is from the town of North Castle, which is the same town that I'm from. He went to North White Plains. He went to Byram Hills High School when I was at Valhalla High School. I didn't.
He's a hell of a writer.
I didn't know him either, and I still don't.
Yeah, but he's a hell of a writer. I mean, Barry does great humor, and of course, when you're writing for a newspaper, you got that deadline hanging over you all the time. Like last week when my sword of Damocles hanging over me and my power running out. This week I'm all hooked up. I'm ready. We can run along. I'm ready.
You'll find some way to screw it up.
Well, that's what I'm all about, Frank. That's my MO. Modus operandi.
So, what did you think of Trump's attorneys this week? I think he would have been better off using Vinny Gambini from My Cousin Vinny.
Joe Pesci. What's it? I love the judge. What's a Ute? He said these two Utes. What's a Ute? What's a Ute? I love that movie. That's a great movie. I love Marisa Tomei in that movie. She's fantastic. My biological clock is ticking. She does that so great. I mean, that's a great movie. That's one of the funniest movies. And great casting too. I mean, it was just a terrific movie.
Yeah.
I guess. Listen, it's a foregone conclusion what's going to happen. Basically what's going on in the Senate right now is
right. It's a foregone conclusion. What happened?
It's a foregone conclusion. What's going to happen?
What happened?
What I see happening is there's a shiver running across the Senate floor in search of a spine, just looking for a spine that it can crawl up. That's all it wants to do. It's about power, man. You know, stay in power at any cost. Back anybody who's going to keep you in power. Imagine having a job where you show up 2 times a week, and with the 2 times a week, all you do is try and raise money to keep you in power. I mean, they don't do anything.
Are you guys really talking about politics?
So I mean, I don't want to talk about the trial too much because it's a foregone conclusion.
I was trying to talk about My Cousin Vinny, but you turned it into the trial.
Oh, okay.
But to hell with it. Let's just move on to the next topic.
Yeah, we beat that horse to death. Frank, I noticed this week that Marty Schartenberger died. Right, the coach of the Browns. Was he a buddy of yours? Did you know him?
Marty was a passing acquaintance of mine. When I was in the World Football League in 1974, Marty was a linebacker with the Portland Storm. And in the morning, he was a linebacker. And at lunch, he went to the head coach, Dick Corey, and he says, Dick, I can't do it anymore. This will be my 12th or 13th year. I'm beaten up. I'm broken down. And Dick said, to his credit, he said, well, then I'll make you the linebackers coach. And that was the day that Marty Schottenheimer became a coach. And he, to this day, he passes as the 8th winningest coach in the NFL history. In fact, he was 14-2 the year he got fired from the San Diego Chargers. Imagine that, being 14-2.
Wow, that's like Yogi Berra getting fired after losing the 7th game in the World Series.
Yep. Exactly.
I never liked the Yankees after that because I was a big Yogi fan. But tell me something. That's how he became linebacker coach.
Right.
Is his background not geared to that? I mean, why did that from his linebacker coach? His whole background was
he was a linebacker in the pros. Uh-huh. He played maybe 12 or 13 years as a professional linebacker, and it was just he just naturally moved up in the ranks once he became a linebacker coach to become a head coach with I think 4 teams.
Really, I knew he was with Cleveland for a long time, and you mentioned San Diego. Who else was he with?
I know he was with Washington.
Wow.
And I don't know who else he was with.
Well, anyway, God rest his soul. He's gone now.
God rest his soul. He's not going to look for you to be at his funeral.
No, I won't be at his funeral. He crossed the great divide without me, I'm afraid. I won't be rowing him across.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I said, well, it's all going in the same direction. It's just a matter of when, you know.
Yeah.
Except for you got to deal with the devil.
I do have to deal with the devil. Yeah.
20 years, Derek, is that it? 2 decades?
20 years.
20 years, and apparently I'm barely going to make it to 65.
Yep. Well, you know, whatever.
Well, you know.
Well,
Whatever. Willie and I will be with you by then.
I'll take 20 years, man. I'll take 20 years right now. That gives me up to 92. I'll take that. Guaranteed. When I was a kid, and growing up in the Bronx, of course, we had no money. You know what I mean? The first time I was ever on a plane was I was 18 on my way to basic training. Because I thought my father was doing great with both sides of his car were painted the same color. I thought we're rolling now, man. Look at this. The doors are the same color, you know? I swear to God, I was in the Army for 2 weeks before I finally figured out that surf and turf was a bologna and tuna fish. That it was a bologna and tuna fish. But, yeah, it's not. Yeah. But at 11, 12 years old, there was a kid in my neighborhood. His older sister, he was the same age as me, his older sister worked for Schubert on Schubert Alley in Broadway. So every Friday night, his sister would give him 2 tickets, smack dab in the middle of the orchestra, for any Broadway show he wanted. And, he'd ask a guy in the neighborhood to go with him. But guys in my neighborhood, the boxing, football, baseball first, boxing second, football maybe a distant 4th or 5th. But I said, yeah, man, I'll go. Well, because of that, I was the only guy who could ever get to go with him. I must have saw that year like 15 great musicals or 15 great Broadway shows. And I'm talking Barbra Streisand and Funny Girl, Sammy Davis Jr. and Mr. Wonderful, Anthony Newley and Stop the World, I Want to Get Off, Oliver, La Caja, for all kinds of great shows. So I'm a big Broadway fan. So I'm interested in talking to Patrick about musical comedy. You know,
Right.
because I got it. I've read a lot and seen a lot of good movies, and but I got to tell you, those early experiences when I was 11 or 12 years old, to see Georgia Brown sing "My Man" and the end of Oliver, and George Hearns sing and La Caja Foles sing "I Am What I Am," and all of those things, those memories are so vivid today that they'll always stick with me. You know?
That's great.
Yeah, so I mean, musical comedy is, it's got its place. And I think nowadays it seems like they're going on the way. Frank, correct me if I'm wrong. They're doing a lot of one-man shows, like they're taking rock stars and putting them on Broadway because people just don't write musical comedies anymore. I mean, the Rodgers and Hammersteins are long gone.
Well, it'll be interesting to ask Patrick about that for sure.
Yeah.
Patrick is
As a matter of fact, maybe I'll ask that as my lead question to him. I'd like to know that.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, no. I was just letting the guys know that Patrick is in.
Our guest today is an outstanding actor known for his work in musical theater and television. I give you a list of his credits, but if I did, we wouldn't have time for the rest of the interview. He's a member.
When I was research on Patrick, it was quite a body of work, man. He really, really laid down quite a body of work.
Yep. He's a member of Hollywood royalty. We're honored to welcome Patrick Cassidy whenever we get his video.
I can't wait to talk to this guy. Musical comedy, dramatic acting, Hollywood royalty. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
The Mook, the Okana, and the Cassidich. I love the Cassidich.
Cassidich. Listen to this guy, Cassidich.
We needed another Italian. You know what I mean?
Our guest today is Patrick Cassidy. Can you bring on Patrick, Billy? Derek.
Billy, can you bring on Patrick?
If Billy can.
Let me tell you something. When you're doing his magic to me anyway, I might as well be going out for Cadabra.
Do it again. I'm going to bring him up like that.
Here we go.
All right, you guys, are we good to go?
I think so. We good to go?
After seeing myself now on this thing, I think I'll see you later.
Hey, Patrick, that's Derek, the third man in the booth.
That's Derek's in the booth. Hey, Derek.
Hey, how are you?
I've never seen Derek spelled Derrec. You've actually managed to change every Derek I've ever. And I've seen a lot of different Derek's, but that's
Witness protection program. Witness protection program. He's doing
yeah,
a bit.
yeah.
He's doing a bit. He's trying to stay anonymous. He's gonna blow his cover here.
So the Mick, the Mook, and the Mike, right?
That's correct. It was supposed to be two Mooks and a Mike, but that name was already taken. So Billy's wife said, "What about to make a Mook and a Mike?" That's fine, except that I would have to be a Mook.
Well, I loved it. We had a little communication problem before Frank had to shut off his computer, but it was great when he shut it off and come up on the screen. The Mook left.
Well, now with the addition of myself, it can be two Micks, a Mook, and a Mike.
And I'm like,
Can I do this? Would you like earpods?
That would help. Yeah.
That would help. Yeah.
By the way, Derek, nice baritone voice, baby.
He does have a great voice, doesn't he?
It resonates a lot better than us as radio wannabes. I'll be right back.
yeah, you know what? I never noticed that, Derek. You do got a very melodic voice. That's true.
It puts me to sleep.
Oh,
Do you
well,
slow dance?
we're
Do
not
you
trying
slow
to put
dance?
people to sleep. Billy, I think you've had a little too many slow dances in your life,
He's had a dances.
and fast dances for that matter.
No, Patrick message is man. You got a nice melodic voice. I think you could do a little yodeling on me if you like.
Yeah, I love the way you talk, Derek. It's fantastic.
All right, look at that, Billy.
All right, now let me just hold on. Let me just. It's amazing for a guy who has such little attention span in terms of learning anything technology. In the year I've been an artistic director here,
Where's here?
I'm sorry?
Where's here? Tell the audience where you're at. Nashville, Tennessee?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm actually live outside of Nashville, about 25 minutes in an incredible place called Franklin, Tennessee, which is, I like to describe it as Bedford Falls, and It's a Wonderful Life. Absolutely charming. It is so beautiful, I can't even tell you. Okay, I'm putting on my AirPods. Let's see if this works.
It's perfect.
Hopefully, I'm better.
How long have you been in Nashville, Patrick?
Oh yeah, I just say again, William. How's that? Is that better for sound?
Perfect.
How long have you been outside Nashville? How long have you been living there?
Okay, I started this job. I was an artistic director in California, in Thousand Oaks, for a company called Five Star Theatricals. I had been making the transition from actor of 40 years, Lord, to teacher, director at colleges. I started teaching at colleges. I then I was doing some producing of theater on the road, did some stuff with my mom. Then I became a resident director at the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas for 2.5 years for a big show called Showstoppers. And then that led to this artistic director position in California. And it was amazing. I learned a lot. I wasn't great at the admin part, but I learned every day. Budgets was a bit of a challenge and all that. But I produced some great shows. I did The Music Man, and I did Matilda, and I did Shrek, and I did Dreamgirls, and I did West Side Story. It was fantastic in a big 1,800-seat theater. My wife and I had wanted to leave California for quite some time. Our children were older, and our younger son, who's a ridiculous singer-songwriter, he was on The Voice when he was 17, got a publishing deal and a record deal.
Not only was he on The Voice, he was a finalist on The Voice. He was a top.
No, he wasn't a finalist, but he was top 12. Yeah. He did.
Now is that Cole? Son Cole.
No. Cole is the smart one, and what I mean by that is
nice research.
He's a great musician, great guitar player, great singer, but he's got a real job. He's a mechanical engineer.
Oh,
wow!
So
his son Jack is the singer.
Yeah, but they're both great musicians. Jack just is exceptional. In my family, as you know, we all sing, but Jack is actually a prodigy. He's really got, as a singer and as a songwriter, he's an incredible songwriter. So anyway, he got this deal in Nashville, and I drove him out here. This was 2 Junes ago. And and I had never been to Tennessee. I don't know, somehow or other, I didn't come on a tour. And I fell in love. I fell in love with it. And my wife had the same experience. And we started looking into what the theater was here and found out about this company called Studio 10, TENN. And they were been in business for 10 years. They were the most reputable musical theater company here. And they had an interim artistic director in place. And I went, that's fine. So I called up. I literally called up from my office in California. I said, hi, who's this? Hi, my name is Tony, and I'm an intern. Oh, okay. So I said, hi, Tony. I said, listen, my name is Patrick Cassidy. You can IMDb me and make sure that I am who I am. I am not a serial killer. And then I went in and sort of and I said, listen, I'm coming to Tennessee. I said, I'd very much like to see your production of Mamma Mia, which was at the time. And I said, I'd like to meet with your managing director about this position. Well, that I did. I went, came, had a meeting. That then started a series of phone calls from California to Tennessee with the board and the board chair and this. And I got the job. And so this is the long-winded answer, last November, this past November 1st, my wife and I moved our whole life out here.
That's great.
And guess what? We haven't been able to produce theater.
Yeah. Well, COVID's really kicked you in the ass, hasn't it?
Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
Are you going to get PPP, payroll protection plan?
We got it the first time. We are now, and we can and do qualify for it now. However, there's another grant. It's a grant, which is the Save Our Stages. And that is far more significant because the PPP money gives us sort of 2 months in terms of, of the amount. The Save Our Stages gives us the entire revenue that we lost for a whole season. So you're talking $425,000, $450,000.
Wow.
So that's what we're hoping for.
That would be great. Hey, Patrick, can you tilt your computer down a little bit so we have a little less headroom? That's great. That's great. That's great. So why don't you tell us a little about your family history?
Well, my parents are Donnie and Maria Osmond. They
You can get you in a protection program with Derek.
That's exactly right. But can't you tell by the teeth? The veneers look like an option, don't they? Yeah, no, I've come.
The chiclet smile, just like your old man.
No, I come from an incredible family of performers. My father was the late Jack Cassidy. He was an incredible. Is that me?
No, it's me. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it.
That's okay. I'll be sending the ear doctor a bill to you. So why is this happening? I've got music thing coming in. Anyway, so yes, my father is the late Jack Cassidy. He was a Tony Award winner, huge Broadway star, had a tremendous film and television career, and unfortunately, he passed away at 49 years old. It was a tragic, tragic death at the time. And my mother, of course, is the movie star, Academy Award winner Shirley Jones. She's known as sort of one of the musical movie ingenues, Carousel, Oklahoma, The Music Man, which incidentally I was conceived on, and kicked Robert Preston in the footbridge scene. If you want to hear it, we'll tell it later, or we can tell it off camera, and you can really gush. But anyway, and then my brothers are the late David Cassidy, who was a huge teen idol in the early 70s. It was like the Beatles.
Partridge Family.
With my mom. And then Sean Cassidy, who's now a big executive producer writer. He has a show in New York called New Amsterdam that he's a writer producer on. But he was a huge teen idol himself in the late 70s and early 80s. I chose to, when I got out of high school, I was going to play quarterback. I was the only, athlete in my family. And I went to Beverly Hills High School, and we didn't have a lot of big guys protecting us. It wasn't like, Carson High School, which had all Samoan guys. I learned to drop back and pass. Had a great quarterback coach who ended up going on working for the Raiders in New England, and after the first 2 games of the season, I was leading the nation in passing.
Wow.
Until I broke my collarbone. And in the interim of healing, I found out that the drama department was doing The Music Man, which, as I said, I was conceived on that movie. So I said to my mom, I said, heck, I'll audition for Harold Hill. I'll get it. My mother was Marion the librarian in the movie. I had never had acting in my life. So my mother calls up Dick Van Dyke, who just happened to be playing Harold Hill in the national tour of The Music Man. And I go up to Dick Van Dyke's house. And Dick Van Dyke teaches me, I'm 16 years old, well, you got trouble, my friend. You say trouble right here in River City. Yeah. He teaches it to me.
Wow.
And he says, Patrick, you're great. Go into the audition. And so I did. I was excited. I had a hat. I had a cane. I went in there and I sang my heart out. And I got the part of salesman number 5.
But you knew the song. We got trouble. We got trouble. We got
And once you learn that song, you never forget it. So
it's a great song. That's what attracted me to The Music Man was that song, because I loved to play pool when I was a kid. And of course, your mother was fantastic in The Music Man, just fantastic. But Robert Preston, I was a big fan of Robert Preston before The Music Man because of the film Bo Jest with Gary Cooper. And he was like, that was a phenomenal movie as a kid, watching Bo Jest.
And in his later years, he did Victor Victoria. He was nominated for an Academy Award. In fact, did he win? But he was phenomenal and did The Last Starfighter. He did a lot of great movies in the end of his career too.
Yeah, I spent 20 years at Warner Brothers, and I'm still working for Warner Brothers now. But I always go to this very spot where Robert Preston sang "Trouble in River City," and then where your mom and Robert led 76
trombones.
76 trombones down the street. It still looks exactly the way it looks that day. It's an right.
Your mom is, I guess, you're a very versatile guy. I mean, I looked up your what do they call it? The IMDb? Am I saying that right?
One of those letters.
Well, I was doing the research on you, and the whole list of accomplishments is kind of remarkable. But your mom was also in Elmer Gantry, where she wasn't doing musical comedy. And Burt Lancaster's another Bronx guy, Frank. I don't know if you know, Burt Lancaster went to DeWitt Clinton. He was a gymnast at DeWitt Clinton High School.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both won Academy Awards for Elmer Gantry.
Terrific.
Yeah, and Richard Brooks, the director, and Gene Simmons, I think, also won for Best Actress because my mom won for Best Supporting.
So I want to go back to Richard Brooks a little bit later. But the first time I met you, Patrick, was on a show called Bay City Blues. You were playing, Terry St. Marie. And Bay City Blues was a minor league baseball team. And who you married to in Bay City Blues?
Do we really have to talk about that, Frank? Sharon Stone. Yes, I was married to Sharon Stone.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was before Basic Instinct.
It was before Basic Instinct.
Yeah, it was before she became a big star. And yeah, she played my wife, and I was this star athlete. At the time, they told me. Who was it, Frank? Who was the guy? Dale Murphy. They based the part after Dale Murphy. Remember him?
Yes, this was a show. This was Stephen Botzko's follow-up to Hill Street Blues. Mm-hmm. This was his first big follow-up to Hill Street Blues, and it had tremendous press. And Stephen's, I don't want to say arrogance, stated that he wanted to make it straight to series instead of doing a pilot. So we did 8 episodes. And Patrick, do you recall the lineup from catcher to all the positions? Who was?
I could get pretty close. Okay. Let me also say something. It was Bull Durham before Bull Durham.
Yes, it was.
I mean, it was about a AAA or AA baseball team. They built a stadium for it. They built a baseball field for it, which is Bakersfield. Is that where it was, Frank?
No, it was outside San Fernando.
That's right. That's right.
We scaled the outfield. The outfield was 310 feet from every place, except in left field and right field corners, it was like about 260. So it looked like the guys could hit it out. But Patrick was the only guy that had the ability to hit it out.
Well, anyway, yes. Let me see if I can name. Jeff McCracken played first base.
Right.
Ken Olin, who's a big, works on This Is Us now, big producer. He played third base.
And Ken was also in 30 something.
That's right. That's right. Eddie Garcia, Eddie Valdez played shortstop.
Eddie Velez played shortstop.
Velez, okay. Tony Spiridakis was the catcher.
Yep.
I was left field.
Yep.
We had Flash. Wasn't Flash the center fielder?
Second baseman.
Oh, he was second base. Okay.
Let me give you a hint of who was second base. Who was center field? Life is like a box of chocolates, and it wasn't Tom Hanks.
Oh no, that's right. It was Michael T. Williamson.
That's correct, Michael T. Williamson.
Ow, yeah.
And Julius Carey was in right.
Amazing.
And who are our coaches?
Well, Michael Nouri was the manager, right? Pat Corley was the owner,
right?
Of course, Dennis Franz.
Yeah,
amazing Dennis Franz.
Yeah.
Bernie Casey,
right?
Who played for the Rams. he was one too.
And who was Kevin McCarthy was the team owner.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So then, who was Pat Corley?
Pat Corley was the. He was the general manager or something. I don't know.
He was. Wait a minute. Wasn't Pat Corley the owner?
Yeah, Pat Corley was. I think. Oh, well, you know what? How many episodes did the show last?
We did 8. We were picked up for 13 because I got paid, and we only shot 8. It was too expensive at the time, from what I understand.
Yes, but we also ran into the fact that we were canceled after 4 episodes.
Yeah, that was
because Motzko wanted the show to go on the air direct to the pilot. It was his arrogance because. Did you have a problem in that show? Did you or Perry?
Yeah. Okay, Frank, you've done your homework. I got it. Okay, I'll admit it.
I was there.
Okay, so remember I told you that it was based on Dale Murphy, who was that great baseball player. Now Dale had a problem. He was a catcher to start his career, but he couldn't throw the ball from the catcher mound back to the pitcher. So they moved him to left field. So he had this problem. But in this case of Bay City Blues, at least this is what they told me, well, we got to give this star left fielder a problem. So they decided to make him a bedwetter at 22. So most of my scenes with the very beautiful Miss Sharon Stone were about rubber sheets. They were fantastic. And we had to keep it quiet. And we lived with another couple, Perry Lang, who played one of the pitchers, and his wife was Michelle Green, who went on to LA Law. And so the 4 of us kind of cohabitated together. So it was about keeping it from everyone as I was basically urinating all over the furniture. It was a real problem.
I got to ask you guys a question. Patrick, you said that the episodes were too expensive. How much does it cost to build a stadium? I mean, once you make an investment like that, isn't that the ball game over? I mean, it would seem like that'd be job security.
I think it costs.
Right?
I think it costs like $600,000 to build a stadium and put the field in. But these were 1983 money.
I was going to say, I had heard. I mean, you know more about this than I would, Frank. But I had heard at the time each episode was costing $1 million. That was a lot of money back then.
Yes, and the ratings were so low because we didn't have a chance to rethink the pilot. We were doing 5 episodes before we aired. As soon as they saw our ratings, NBC canceled us immediately, and that was the greatest break of Dennis Franz's life. Yeah. Getting canceled because everybody loved him so much. Stephen loved him so much. He put him in Hill Street Blues as the top. and the rest is history. Because
Dennis Franz is dead about a year now, right? Maybe a little over a year.
oh, he's alive.
Is he?
Yeah, he's not Marty Schottenberger.
Thanks, man.
Come on, I tell you. Einstein, Goldberg, it's all the same. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, William, you got to IMDb him. You'll know. Find out.
Patrick Milad. My name is William Patrick Michael O'Connor, born in Cork City, Ireland, right? I came here when I was 2 years old by boat through Ellis Island. You got to have a middle name. There's got to be a middle name attached to that, Patrick Cassidy. And what part of Ireland are you people from?
Okay, say your full name again.
William Patrick Michael O'Connor.
Okay, ready? Patrick William Cassidy.
All right, I knew there had to be a middle name. There always has to be a middle name. And what part
if I'm bragging, it's Patrick William 360 Guy Cassidy.
All right.
Sorry.
Who has the questions you want to ask Patrick about musical theater? Because I know you're a big musical theater fan.
But by the way, William, I got to say something. Are you from the South? That accent is so familiar.
Montgomery, Alabama. Don't pick that right away, but you picked up on it. You got a good ear.
I'm telling you, Billy, we could have had a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No wonder you're musical comedy. It gets it. As a matter of fact, I still love the introduction. We were talking before we went on the air to our viewers out there, and he said, "Yeah, here's another Irishman, Patrick Cassidy." And I always the Italians, hey, Cassidy.
Cassadinis. What is? You know.
But yeah, man. So, what part of Ireland are you people from? Do you know?
Well, our whole family, is actually from New York. My family business, which is, I don't know how much you know about this, Frank, but the family business from Long Island, from Queens. So the family business is the Long Island Railroad. My grandfather, all my uncles, my great-grandfather, there's been a Cassidy that's been an engineer on the railroad for the last 100 years. And so that was really the family business. My father left home at like 16 and became a bellhop at the Essex Hotel, and he had this great singing voice, so he went into theater.
They must have been thrilled at that.
Oh, they were like, but he could sing like a dream, and he became famous. I mean, he got his first show at like 21, 22 years old on Broadway. But like I said, the Long Island Railroad, being an engineer, and then my first cousin, he became the head of the union.
Oh wow!
Yeah, let's move the nose over here. They, he has.
I resent that.
You ain't one of those dudes than those guys.
I'm telling you, had I stayed in New York, I would have become one of them shtakas. I would have been working the docks. I would have been working stuff there. Because my cousin and then his son, his best friend was Peter Gotti.
Wow.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, no, that's the real Cassidy. My dad became, famous in New York on Broadway. And of course, he met my mother, and they got married in 1955, 56, I think, like that. And he married a movie star, and so we became the West Coast Cassidys. But the truth is, my family and the family business is New York.
Wow. Shouldn't be talking too much about the family business, Patrick.
Oh, Bill, you wouldn't know anything about it.
No, not me, man. These guys. No. I don't know. I don't know them guys.
Yeah, Billy owned bars, and it was illegal booking. He doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah, I was a bookmaker in the Bronx for 12 years. I had to deal with those guys on a regular basis.
Oh, my gosh.
You know what, man? In fairness, and this is in fairness, if you make a deal with a wise guy and you do what you're supposed to do, you never have a problem. I never had a problem with any of those guys. They all give me good. Of course, don't do what you're supposed to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If for some reason, though, something goes awry and you can't, upkeep the deal, you better leave town.
Hey, Patrick, which of your musical roles have you enjoyed the most? You've done so many of them. But what would you say was the highlight of it? Obviously, the Music Man, which your mother has to be a very very big highlight of your life. But aside from the Music Man, was it Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat? Was it Company? Was it what exactly was it?
I mean, the Music Man is sort of the centerpiece, because I've now gotten to, I've, I've done it with my mother 3 times. I've gotten to direct it. I did it for Marvin Hamlish at the Kennedy Center, and I've gotten to produce it. And like I said, it was the beginning of my career. Um, so that's a big one. But personally, and it's interesting, Stephen Sondheim, who's literally one of the greatest composers ever in the history of musical theater. If the Mount Rushmore is Washington, Lincoln, and Jefferson, the 3 greatest composers are Richard Rodgers, Stephen Sondheim, and maybe Andrew Lloyd Webber in terms of what people know. So I got to originate in 1991 a Stephen Sondheim musical. Most actors would give their right arm to do it. It was a musical, strange piece. It was called Assassins, and it was about a music about all the presidential assassins. There was an album that came out that was not nominated for a Grammy, and I had 40% of the singing on the album, so I had a lot. And the cast was extraordinary. I've never worked with a cast since a group of actors that were such at the top of their game at the time. Jerry Zaks was the #1 director in New York at the time. He directed it. Anyway, come full circle, I'm doing my own talk show now called Studio 10 Talks, Conversations with Patrick Cassidy. I've had Kristen Chenoweth on, and Jason Alexander on, and Kelly O'Hara, and Patti LuPone, and Cheetah Rivera, and it's been incredible.
Pete Williams,
Victor Garber. So long story short, John Stamos is this weekend. On March 8th, 30 years later, I have the entire cast of Assassins with Stephen Sondheim at 90 years old, John Weidman, who wrote the book, Paul Gemignani, who conducted and was the musical director of the show, the whole entire team. It is going to get a tremendous amount of attention and press in New York City, and so that's the long-winded answer and the promo for my talk show reunion. But that musical experience was bar none the best.
What'd you make your debut in on Broadway?
First show I did was I was 18 years old, and I got cast in the Pirates of Penzance with Kevin Kline.
Wow!
And then Treat Williams.
That was Joseph Papp. Joseph Papp did that?
Yeah, Joe Papp. Yeah, New York Shakespeare Festival, and it had started at the Delacorte Theater in the Park, Free Shakespeare in the Park. Such a hit because remember they had Linda Ronstadt in it at the time. I mean, that was a huge thing. She was a huge rock. She played stadiums. And she comes out and she does this little, Broadway musical, this operetta. And then Rex Smith, who's still a great friend of mine. And in fact, he was the first guest out on Studio 10 Talks, close friend. And Kevin Kline and Stell Parsons. It was an incredible cast. So I went into the show 2 weeks before Kevin left. I did it. And then, of course, Treat Williams, who was Art King, and he did it, but I did it for a year, and it was my, I got everything. They put me on Interview Magazine. I got my own Hirschfeld in New York. I mean, there's no better job than to star in a Broadway musical. If you're starring in a Broadway musical, that's the job. You've hit the ball out of the park.
We had Don Scardino on, and I didn't ask him this question, but I will ask it to you. What's it like going on stage and having the curtain go up for the first time? What are the feelings? What are the emotions? What are you going through when you see those footlights and you see the people? I guess you really can't see the people out front, but they're there.
Yeah, I mean, I always paralleled it with playing quarterback. Throwing a touchdown and singing that 11th hour number, that great song it's the same thing. It's that immediate response. It's that adrenaline, you're just, the excitement and the adrenaline is just flowing through you. And, in the theater versus television and film is an actor's medium. I talk about this all the time. Once the rehearsal process is over, you drive the ship. You do the show, 8 shows a week, which is demanding. It's like you're an Olympic athlete, because especially with the musical, because you have to always be concerned about your voice. But you do it from beginning to middle to end every night. So you drive it, and it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, doing a show, and like I said in New York, there's nothing better. It really isn't.
Now, do you put particular different nuances every performance? Do you change it? Or do you try and stay solid or more robotic, or do you fiddle with it?
That's when I teach that I believe is part of the technique. Because remember, the audience is seeing it for the first time. It's their first experience. So but you as the performer have to find, so it doesn't become stale, and so you find little nuances. It changes. But let me state this because as you know, the pandemic has completely killed the theater business. I mean, it's killed all live entertainment. Theater business, and specifically Broadway, is literally going to be the last thing to recover, because Broadway survives on tourism. Tourism is a long ways away. Broadway and New York survives on everybody being on top of each other. I mean, the theater seats in a Broadway house are so tight. And of course, backstage is very tight. So it's going to be a ways. But what I realized during this pandemic, the reason live theater can't be replaced, and it definitely can't be replaced on this thing, which is so everybody's trying to, how do we monetize this virtual world? And it's just very difficult. Live theater is an experience that only happens that one time between you and the audience.
Yeah.
So as you were saying, William, yes, you're doing the same show that you did the night before, and then tomorrow night you're going to do the same. Different. It's a only once experience between you and that particular audience that night. And the give and take between an audience and a performer live is nothing else. Because if something goes wrong, that audience has seen it for the first time. Yeah. And it's going to be different. It has to be a little different. How did I feel? What did I eat that night? Do I have a headache? It's going to be different.
Cool.
And you know what I mean? So that audience is experiencing that.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that Joe DiMaggio once said. And Joe DiMaggio was famous for, leaving it all on the field every time they played. And one of the guys said to him, Joe, how can you put out 100% every time? And Joe said, because somebody may be seeing me play in person for the only time. And that was a really great quote, because I saw Jack Weston phone it in one day in Broadway, and I was embarrassed for Jack Weston. It was a Woody Allen play, and I was embarrassed for Jack Weston because he put no effort in it at all. It was just one of those performances, and it was too bad. I felt bad for all the people in the audience.
Well, could you imagine, Frank, if Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote and starred in Hamilton, phoned it in one performance when somebody's paying $1,000 a ticket?
Yep.
It just doesn't, you know what I mean?
Patrick, when I graduated college late in life, about 62 years old, I started doing stand-up comedy just because, why not? And I wanted to be a writer, and I said, you know what? One of these days I'm going to be pitching a book. Obviously, I'm not the darling. I'm not going to be the darling in the nursing homes to start stand-up comedy at 62. But it was a great experience, By
the way, William, not to interrupt you, but if I could talk like you, I'd do stand-up comedy too. You know what I mean? Come on.
Well,
it's funny.
It's used in LA, but it don't fly in New York. I can tell you that. I noticed on a given night, I could do a joke and it would crush, and do the exact same joke on another night and it would crickets. Did you find when you were doing live Broadway like that the accentuation and the applause would be different in different places that you didn't expect from the night before?
It's a great question, and you asked it great. Well, here it is. I have always been, as long as I've been a theater actor, 40 years, I've always been amazed by that relationship from night to night between you and the audience. And why does it change? Because again, they're seeing it for the first time. But you as the performer know what you're doing. You've got it down. You know what I mean? It doesn't change a lot, no matter what. But depending on the audience, they might have a different reaction. They might not laugh as much, might not applaud as much. Now, what I've come to understand is it has a lot to do on the night that the audience sees it. Friday night, people go to the theater. There's a couple of cocktails. It's a different experience than the Wednesday matinee. That's the blue-haired ladies, and it's a different experience than the Tuesday night from work, whatever, than a Sunday matinee, which is mostly kids. And it's also location-based. New York is one experience. Doing it in San Antonio, Texas, and I toured 3 solid years with Joseph twice and with Aida once. That's a different experience too, of how people across the country receive a show, versus say the New York theater. But it's a great question. I've always been fascinated by how an audience can be different from night to night in terms of how they react.
Wow, that's great.
Well, blows my mind. But you mentioned before that your favorite performance was with Joseph Papp. But you had Patty LuPone on your show. You worked with Patty and George Hearns, is that right? And He Gets Your Gun.
Yeah, she and I.
I've always been a big fan of George Hearns, especially in La Cage aux Folles when he does "I Am What I Am." That's a showstopper.
He's amazing. He's amazing, and won the Tony Award for that show. And I loved George. I mean, he played Buffalo Bill, and I played Frank Butler. And he told me some amazing stories. George is a recovered alcoholic, and he told me
as his
host. What?
As his
my name is Bill. Hello, my name is Bill.
How you doing, Bill?
Oh my God,
drug addict and a gambler. The only thing I can't resist is temptation.
Patrick, with the white beard and the white hair, you were doing Foster Brooks.
I know, Frank. But he said to me, he told me some incredible stories about when he was drinking. He said, "Do you know that I went on stage in Sweeney Todd?" Now, Sweeney Todd is an unbelievably demanding performance. I mean, you're on the stage the entire time. It's Sondheim. The lyrics are fast. The lyrics are precise. He went on, and he has about 4 performances he doesn't remember. And he did the show and was amazing. So he's an amazing guy, and I had a great time working with him. He was smart. He told me a great story, which I just loved, and I said, I got to steal this. That he didn't tell me who it was, but he said that he was dealing with a director that was very temperamental and very difficult, and said something to George in sort of a sarcastic or, I don't know, demeaning way. And George looked at me and says, "You know something? I will no longer, let me make sure I get this right. I will no longer expose myself to your incompetence." And he walked away. and I thought, and that was it. But I loved him. And Patty, well, Patty's been a really close friend. I've always had a big crush on Patty. And when we did Annie Get Your Gun together, it was a dream for me to work with her. When I asked her to do my show, she said absolutely when. She was incredible on the show. I do a little game on the show at the end. I play a couple games on the show with the guests, but one of the games is you become the host. And it's at the end of the show, and I asked the guests, because most of them are very good friends, colleagues and people I've worked with. You get to ask me one question, any question. Of course, Patty, she has no censor. She's transparent to a wonderful place. She says to me, "So, Patrick, how many girls have you bedded?"
That's a hell of a question, Patrick.
I was going to ask the same question.
And I froze. And I thought, and for some reason, something snapped, and I went, "Well, only one of any consequence, my wife." But she's
not about the diplomatic society at all.
she's an incredible talent, an incredible human being, and I adore her. I just adore her. And but yeah,
I went to see her at a matinee, a one-woman show she was doing on Broadway I took my mom to see it, and she just crushed it. She was just great.
She's great. I mean, you talk about somebody who gives it all every night. She gives it all every night.
You bring up temperamental directors. You worked with Richard Brooks at the end of his career. Richard Brooke was very famous because he directed in Cold Blood and Elmer Gantry. What was he like to work with? Was he temperamental?
I have a great story. You're asking both you guys did some good homework. I like that.
Little homework. Yeah,
You did a little homework. This is a great story. I haven't told this story in a long time. I've told it. I don't even know if I've told. It's a great. Okay. So my mother. Well, you guys be the judge. You tell me. Nah, it's a 4, Patrick. It's a 4. So my mother, as you know, did Elmer Gantry, won the Academy Award, and uh, Richard. Okay. So I get an offer to do a movie with Ryan O'Neal called Fever Pitch. And it's a small part. And Richard was known for not giving the actors the full script. He just gave them their pages. You know, Richard came, he was an editor. So he did it in his head. And he was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. So he ran the set as if it was the Marines.
Whoa.
He yelled at everybody. This was a time, you know, as you know, Frank, if you go back to the old days, you know, you could be abusive to no end with anybody on the set. People got away with murder. And Richard ran the set as if it were the Marine Corps. He screamed at everybody. So he had a bad hip, and I was 22 years old, and I played this Marine, actually, who when we discovered him, he's reciting the Lord's Prayer in a public bathroom and about to blow his brains out. And Ryan O'Neal plays this writer, an LA-based writer who writes a column about an addicted gambler. Well, he ends up becoming the addicted gambler.
Billy was that too. Billy was also addicted.
You know, Billy, did you ever sell dresses down in the garment district as well?
Used to wear it. All for myself. That's what my life is.
So anyway, so Ron O'Neal comes in to the bathroom. He stops me, and he befriends me, and I find out that I've lost all my money. I was in Vegas for like a 48-hour stint. I've lost this $10,000 that I was $10,000 that I was going to take my father out of a retirement home. So he sort of befriends me, and I have this scene where I'm in a Jeep, and I have to do this monologue about having lost the money, and I won't get to it. Was for my dad, and Ryan's driving, right? And it was this monologue, and Richard was on the camera truck because they pulled the Jeep, right? So, and he was, like I said, he was in his mid-70s at that time and had a bad hip. He walked with a limp. And I was young, and I had to cry in this monologue, and it just wasn't happening. Okay, I'm doing this monologue, and I'm trying to get there. And, you know, my dad, he's suffering with arthritis, and you know, it's just, and I hear cut. He off the camera truck, and he walks over to me with this limp, and he's limping over, and he says, "Do you know what it feels like to have your father crippled with arthritis at home? It hurts, right?" Starts to jab me in the stomach. I'm going. He goes, "Do it again." He goes and he limps back to the camera truck. I go and goes, "Whoa!" I'm going, "Yeah, my father, and I lost all the money, and I don't cut." And I froze. I froze, and I went, "Oh no, here it gets off." He limps over to me again. He says, "Now, what I'm going to do to you right now doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't care." Boom! He slaps me. And I go, "Oh, God, I can't do it." Whoa! He limps back to the thing. And he gets to the thing, and we do it. And we do the take, and it's terrific. Cut to 2 weeks later, I'm finished the movie, and I'm leaving. And he says to me, "You know, I slapped you because I knew you had it in you. I knew it would create this thing." I said, "Richard, that's terrific, but I'll be in therapy for the next 10 years. And the point of it is, I haven't told that story in a long, long time. He was known for doing that. My mother had told me that he had slapped Gene Simmons on the set of Gantry. And there were, you know, but in those days, I mean, correct me, Frank, people got away with a lot of things that today they'd go to jail for.
Yeah.
There's a famous story of Otto Preminger when he was making Ecstasy, the movie Ecstasy with what was her name, Hedy Lamarr.
Exodus.
No, Ecstasy. No, Ecstasy was the name of the movie. Otto Preminger with Hedy Lamarr was her first starring role. Hedy Lamarr, and he wanted to get a shot of her having an orgasm, and he went underneath the couch and stabbed her with a sewing needle, and she screamed and that's the shot he got.
Wow.
No, there's hundreds, thousands of those stories. Where people did things that
they wanted to get the shot, and that was it. They were going to get that shot.
What was that? Please Don't Kill My Dog, the biography of Jackie Cooper. Jackie Cooper was a boy. He was boy star, and he told him they were going to kill your dog if you don't do this take right. So he did the take right. It's unbelievable.
Patrick, with all the different things you've done in show business over the last 40 years, and I mean, it's quite a legacy. Do you feel more comfortable doing drama, or do you feel more comfortable in musical comedy? Is that your milieu, you think? You think that's your...
It's been musical theater has kind of been my bread and butter. Even though, I've done a lot of television, a lot of film over the course of my career. I got a really good Screen Actors Guild pension that's coming to me in about 5 or 6 years. So a good equity. But, again, the theater, I told you, that immediate response, there's something very special about the theater, that in film, you're left up to the editor and what the director says, and you sit around a lot in film. It's a different way, to prepare. It's a lot more. Whereas theater is, you're on and you go.
You get the immediate gratification. As soon as you put the line out or the song is over, that you hit, you crushed, and you get that.
That's right. Your performance in film and television is made and broken in the editing room.
So, Patrick, what was it like in 2009 when you did Ruby and the Rockets with David, Sean, and Ryan?
Best job of my life.
Really?
By far.
Well, you say that the best job for an actor is a Broadway theater. I sort of disagree. I think as a sitcom actor, because you work less and you make more. But why don't you tell us about that experience in 2009 with Ryan, Sean, and David?
Well, I say the theater, and specifically Assassins, because I'm originating one of the greatest composers of musicals of all time. I'm working with a class of actors that I never got to work with again in terms of the skill set and who they were.
Right.
And again, I'm the toast of New York. It's a different thing. But I was making $360 a week at Playwrights Horizon. So that's a prestigious thing. That means everything to you as an actor. Cut to now the opposite. I'm on the soundstage at where we shot Bay City Blues, which was the old MTM, the Radford lot now. Stage 12. My brother Sean is the executive producer writer. I'm doing, as you said, Frank, a sitcom, which by far is the greatest job in television for an actor, bar none. You get paid, and you do it for a live audience. You get paid a huge sum of money to literally laugh all week. And then you get to do it in front of a live audience as if you're where? In the theater. Yeah. And it's all fun. Fun. And I got to work opposite my brother David. I got to work with my younger brother Ryan, who was on the show. I got to work with my wife, who did choreography on the show. And I even got to do an episode that my mom came in as a guest. I'm working with my family. I'm making thousands of dollars a week, and I'm getting to laugh all day. Yeah, there's no better job for an actor.
We both know Susan Egan. I worked with Susan on a show called Nikki, which was on for 2 years, and Susan was doing. Susan was a star of Beauty and the Beast. She originated the role of Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, but at the time she was doing cabaret on Broadway. So between the time we got the pickup and the time we started shooting, my wife Karen and I, at whose wedding Patrick played the drums. Yes, sir.
Nice.
My wife Karen and I went to New York to see Susan in cabaret, and she said, "What the hell is she leaving cabaret for to do Nikki?" And I said, "We're paying her."
Oh yeah.
And And that's a real thing Patrick's talking about, because sitcom money is big money, and now I guess Broadway money is rapidly approaching sitcom money, but still, there's a wide disparity of pay scale. And,
Frank, it's not. I mean, Broadway money for Bette Midler, Broadway money for Matthew Broadway, Broadway money for Nathan Lane. Yeah, that's sitcom money. But for most actors, and by the way, when it comes back, you watch, salaries are going to start way low. It's going to be a long time before the money that you can make, even getting a Broadway equity contract, is going to be up there. But again, that goes back to the prestigiousness of the part. Sally Bowles in Cabaret, you can't touch that in terms of as a performer and getting to do that. And about Susan, Susan is a really close friend with her. I saw her 2 days. She lives here in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yes, because and you can tell her that I'm going to call her to ask her to appear on the show. And I found out about the fact that she moved to Tennessee because her Christmas card was returned to me. Nobody's here by that name.
Oh, well, I will tell her. I saw her on Wednesday.
Did you have in a card, Frank? Did you have a little package in the card? How much money did you have in the card?
Not enough. I guess not enough.
The card, hey Frank, the card I got, it had cash that William had earned back in the day.
You talked about performing with your family and what a kick it was for you. I'm going to ask you a general question, not trying to pin you down at all. But we had a comic on last week, Paul Verzi, a touring comic, great guy. And we were talking about comedy and how, you're going to go on the road. You want to go on the road with somebody who's affable. Doesn't have to be the funniest guy, but you're going to be spending 4 months with this guy. You can't be a prick. Now, in your experience on Broadway, in the movies, every place else, what percentage of people do you work with could you consider like they were difficult to work with? I mean, how low is that percentage? Like, this way, I'm not pinning you down to any particular actor, but
again, it's a subjective thing.
yeah,
for me, I always thought of myself as I was very positive. I thought I always had a great energy. I loved being there. I'm a people person. So being on the set or being in the theater or being in rehearsal, whatnot, I always had a good time. I wanted to have a good time. And, there are some personalities that don't gel. I've had a couple of difficult directors that I worked with that were hard. I've had only a couple of difficult actors that I worked with. Did I mention my wife was Sharon Stone? Anyway, it was there were very few in my life that I thought were, but again, I thought it was, my attitude was I'm going to have a good time, and I did.
You have to have to have a positive attitude. So let me ask you, Patrick, when did your hair go gray? Because I lost touch with you for about 5 or 6 years after that, and all of a sudden your hair was gray at like in the 30s.
Frank, we do grow up. You do know that it does change for us. My hair was starting to go gray at 24. I just colored it for a long time because my father was gray very, very young, and yes. I was fully gray by the time I was probably 35 or 36.
Wow.
I kept coloring it because it was obviously, who is this guy? He's like older than So, and finally, my age caught up with my hair color, and then I could let it go. But, for a long time, it worked for me in terms of being able to play younger and then letting my hair go natural and being able to play older. The thing I'm the most proud of in my career is that from the age of 37 to the age of 45, 5 shows that couldn't be more opposite. Meaning, at 37, I did Joseph. Well, Joseph in the Bible is like 15. Now, when they do him in the theater, they usually do it with a guy in his 20s. And, I was in good shape, and I wore a lot of tanning cream, and I wore the Egyptian skirt and whatever. But I was 37 when I did it. The next role right after that was Frank Butler in Annie Get Your Gun. Now, that's about a 25 to 30 year, age up. And I let my hair go gray, and I had a beard and had gray in it, right? I played opposite Cheryl Ladd, and I could play that older leading man. The next role after that was Elton John's Aida on Broadway, and I had to age back down to a guy in his late 20s. Colored my hair, put an earring in, Egyptian captain, blah, blah, blah. The next role after that, I played Julian Marsh. That's 45 years in 42nd Street on Broadway. Literally like that. And then the next role after that was Joseph again. My point of it is that because of my hair color, because of the ability to go back and forth, and if I take a tiny little bow, me as an actor, I was able to play younger, and be believable. I was able to play older and be believable, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that.
Patrick, I think you should be proudest of the fact that your hair had nothing to do with that. That you have talent, and that you had talent, and you're an enduring talent. And 40 years later, you're still working, and that's a tribute to you and your acting ability, your family history. It's a great story. A story of really, really perseverance and fortitude, and I'm so happy to have you as our guest.
My pleasure, Frank. Thank you, and you too, William. Thank you.
Oh man, it's been great having you. We have I think in the book Lips, Frank talks about Jay Thomas saying that there's no room for success in this business. You got to make the room. You got to elbow your way to the top. And last week's guest, Paul Verzi, said the same thing. Your talent's got to be undeniable. And certainly you fit that mold, undeniable. If I had to title this episode, considering the stock you come from between your mother and father, I'd call this episode Alligators Raise Alligators.
Yeah.
Not crocodiles. Alligators.
Hey, Derek, you've been quiet so far, but do you have anything you want to ask Patrick before he?
I have at least one question. So we got the top 10 quarterbacks. I'm going to name a couple, three: Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and I'll even throw in Dan Marino as maybe in the top 4 or 5. You miss football? If you could trade maybe 20 years of your career to be that football star like Tom Brady is today?
Well, Tom Brady at 43 years old, we know what he's done, and he will go down in history. I think it's almost safe to say that he will go down in history as one of, if not the greatest athletes, simply because of what he did. It's 7 Super Bowls, and what he did this year. I don't know, as LeBron is LeBron. Michael Jordan is, those achievements are without doubt the greatest. But what Brady did, it's just like, it's amazing to me. So he's won at 43 years old. He's done it, right? And he seems very healthy, right? Marino was one of the greatest I ever saw in terms of throwing darts. That arm and what he could do. Peyton Manning also. But the long-winded answer is, Derek, no, because I'm happy I still have my knees and I still have my body. I would have been hurt, crushed. I was 165 pounds in high school, which is probably why I broke my collarbone. God had given me the ability to. I threw the ball 65 yards in high school. I had a cannon. I could really throw. So I'm happy that I broke my collarbone when I was 17. And not my knees when I was 25 or 30 or whatever.
Patrick, I think you're not a contemporary of Mark Harmon, are you? I think Mark's a little older than you because
he's a little older than me.
Mark was a quarterback at Harvard.
UCLA. I thought it was UCLA. Yeah.
Harvard Westlake Harvard High School, and then he became a quarterback at UCLA. But I think he was a little older than you. Mark, of course, is the son of Tom Harmon and is now on CSI. He's not on CSI. He's on NS.
NS. I've never seen that show, and it's been on for 150 years.
Yeah, me either.
Just one of those shows that convinces you not to kill your wife because you're going to get caught. They got DNA everywhere. There's no shot anymore. You can't do anything anymore.
My senior year, Frank, I just wanted to quickly say. So my senior year in high school, John Elway was a year older than I was. And I remember Granada Hills, where he went to high school before he went to Stanford, was playing Carson High. And I went to the final game. It was the city. John Elway was hurt, and he was on the sidelines. He was 6'4". He was bigger than anybody on my line.
Yep.
I looked at him and I looked at myself and I said, I'm not going down this path. They got bigger, they got faster and meaner.
I remember I ran into John Elway once in Palm Springs, and I was shocked at how big he was. Just seriously shocked. But
yeah. I mean, these guys are freaks in terms of they're athletes, like they're built out of stone,
and not Sharon Stone.
No,
not Sharon. Somebody built out of Sharon Stone.
And not Sly in the Family Stone.
Well, thank you again, Patrick. This has been a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, I wish you nothing but success, Billy, Derek. We all wish you nothing but success.
Real pleasure to meet you. Real pleasure.
You too, Mr. Mick. You too, Mr. Mook. The mic was fantastic. And Derek, you should have your own show. What are you doing with these guys? Please.
The voice. From now on, we got to call it the Mick, a mic and a voice. A voice.
The mic is fine.
Thanks again. Be well. And
Thank you, Patrick.
And happy anniversary.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, guys. Have a great one. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
So, Billy, we did it again.
What an affable guy. What a nice guy. He wasn't kidding around when he said he's a people person. Just, a sweetheart of a guy,
Yeah. So, I want to talk about one more thing. I want to talk about the ABA guys, the basketball players in the ABA. Of course, my friend Artis Gilmore is one of them. They're not getting pensions from the NBA. And there's only 108 of them alive. And it just makes me crazy that the NBA doesn't pay them pensions, because a lot of those, and a lot of it has been chalked up to racism, because they've paid some pensions to ABA guys who played in the ABA before 1965. But the ABA lasted 8 years, and those guys made a tremendous impact into basketball becoming what it is today. They introduced the three-point play. They introduced the multicolored basketball. They were playing basketball. They were Showtime before Showtime. And for those guys not to receive even $1,000 a month, there's 108 guys still alive that played in the ABA. Many, many, many of them are destitute. If they were to get $1 million, if they were to get $1,000 a month, that would be $12,000 a year, and that would total $1.6 million for the entirety of the year. The average player in the NBA makes $7.6 million a player. That would equal something like each team would put up $44,000 a year. And I guess even if they raised the money by giving all the proceeds from the All-Star game to the retired ABA players, it's just an abomination.
That's awful. I mean, we're talking coffee money here for the NBA. This is coffee money. I mean, this is not going. You know what they should do? Some of the ones that are alive, I don't know, is Dan Issel still around, or the Iceman, or some of those guys should actually go on a GoFundMe and embarrass the NBA and say, GoFundMe, try and get money for the pension.
I was going to say the same thing. They should start some kind of some kind of fun, some kind of campaign.
Well, I know that Artis is working with Dan Issel and George Gervin, and they're working with an organization called Dropping Dimes out of Indianapolis. And there are a number of ABA players that are still alive who are in the Hall of Fame. And those guys are going to the Players Association to ask for assistance in helping to get their money. And they're going to Chris Paul and LeBron James. So I think that would be a good thing to go. But you guys' idea is a good idea as well. That's a very good idea. And I'm going to mention that to Artis when we get off the phone.
Well, let's hope that they come across. I mean, I'm a big union guy. You know that. I mean, I remember one time speaking on the steps of City Hall in L.A. I think when they was doing the Occupy Wall Street, and I put my helmet on, and I was talking about unions and the benefits of unions, and some guy yelled out in the crowd, and he said, "What are you up here for? Why are you down here? You got a pension." He says, "You know, you got Medicare." And I says, "Yeah, but you're asking the wrong question. Don't ask why am I here because I got a pension. Ask why you don't have a pension. That's the real question. Not why I do. Ask why you don't."
I mean, I'm in a union also. I mean, I'm in the Directors Guild, and I get a great pension. And I could easily live off that pension. And it's way more than $1,000 a month, which the ABA guys are asking for $1,000 a month. 108 guys. By the time they end up getting it, there'll probably be 18 of them dead because they're older guys now, and they're starting to drop like flies, and it's really a shame. And the NBA ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with you 300%. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, this is the richest country in the world. They don't want you working from the cradle to the grave, or do they? Do they?
Well, one guy who's going to be retiring soon is our guest next week, Cowboy Joe West, the Major League umpire who's going to set a record for the most games umpired in Major League history. Needs 31 to go, and then he'll be over 5,000 Major League games umpired. He's a great guy. You guys are just going to love him. So he'll be our guest next week.
Imagine the stories out of an umpire that was around that long. I mean, he's got to have some tremendous stories about so many different ball players. It's got to be great.
Remind me to ask him to tell a story about David Ortiz of the Red Sox when he came up as a rookie and he retired. It's a great story. And he's also a country western singer. He's a rock on tour for sure. And we've had
the guests just keep coming with the hits, pal. Keep it up. The guests have been great. I'm getting quite an education here.
We're trying, that's for sure. Anyway, have a good week. I'll see you next week. To Derek, to Billy, all is well, and next week.
Take care, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in.
And don't forget, if these lips could talk,
subscribe to Mick, Amook, and a Mike on YouTube and Facebook. And available on Acclaim and
Amazon.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, folks. And thank you, Derek. Thank you, Frank. I'll see you in church.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week.